Dear friends, hope you enjoyed the previous episode. If so, do like, subscribe and share. Good stuff, when shared will bring more joy. Now we move on to this episode, a midwinter night's walk. It was hardly a few moments, I would have slept. I felt that I am shaking. Was I dreaming? No, I am awake. I am shaking. Only then, I realized my aunts were shaking me up. I opened my eyes to see my aunts in tears. Uncle has gone to be with Jesus. Amidst her tears, Aunt May uttered. Half conscious, I uttered, why not with the Father or the Holy Spirit? Why Jesus, all the time? By then, I was fully awake and understood that our uncle had passed away. I could see only the two aunts. Uncle Arul was nowhere to be seen. Has the sulking man gone out to find a wine shop nearby? Where is Uncle Arul? I asked. Only then, the aunts narrated what happened. During ailing uncle's final moments, his body has lifted from the bed a few times and dropped. Seeing this, Uncle Arul got scared and ran out of the hospital ward. So, I went out to see where he was. All perspiring, in that midnight cold, Uncle Arul was there clutching a chair in the waiting room with fear. I told him, all is over, and we went looking for the old sister, to tell her that she was relieved of her only patient. We found the sister, fast asleep in her room, slumped on her desk. We woke her up and conveyed the sad news. The always old sister seemed to look happy, not even knowing that her vocation was a noble one, which has to come from deep inside and others cannot imbibe it in her. But that was not the case with her. She came to Uncle's side, felt his pulse and heartbeat, checked his pupils and pronounced him dead. That's what we have already told you, I thought. The old sister asked us to take the body home, at the earliest, as they cannot keep a dead person on the hospital bed. We agreed with her and asked her to call for the ambulance, so that we can take Uncle home. Pat, came the reply. As it was 12:30 in the midnight, she would not be able to help. We must go out and get a vehicle. There is no other choice and we have to make it fast, too. Just imagine, it was a freezing cold November midnight and the temperature had gone below zero. With a thick fog outside the hospital building, unable to see anything beyond 2 feet, our plight was inexpressible. Though fully clothed in woolens, still both of us, Uncle Arul and myself, were shivering. Holding each other by hand, we slowly made our way towards Ooty Central bus stand to find a taxi. Normally, taxis were available there for the service of midnight and early morning travelers. Even some tea shops were kept open throughout the night. Luckily, midway we saw an ambassador, black and yellow taxi. The driver was sleeping in the back seat. We woke him up and told him that we had to shift a patient from the state-run hospital. He too readily agreed for 200 rupees. In those days, 200 rupees was a handsome amount. Later, when we added that Uncle had just passed away, he became irritated and asked us if his vehicle looked like a dead man's coach. Red-faced, he told us that he cannot come and chided us for disturbing him in his sleep. After much persuasion, he agreed to shift Uncle's body from hospital to home for 400 rupees. We were only too happy to give. Imagine, at 1:30 in the middle of the night, freezing in the winter's chill, at an altitude of more than 7,300 feet from sea level, does one have any other option but to agree? Even the car must have felt the cold. It took some time for it to start. Finally, we made our way to the hospital, at a snail's pace, with fog lights on. On reaching the hospital, we asked the old sister for a stretcher to carry Uncle's body to the car. To this, her reply was, the stretcher was in the ambulance and the ambulance was at the ambulance driver's home, who cannot be disturbed at this part of the night. Just imagine a hospital without a second stretcher. Not knowing what to do with this non-cooperative person, refusing any help whatsoever, myself and Uncle Arul requested the taxi driver if he could help. Though he was apprehensive and irritated, he finally agreed to help at an additional charge of 100 rupees. The dead uncle's shoes were on his bedside. We put them on his feet and lifted him from the bed. By the time we returned with the taxi, the good old sister had removed all the tubes and wires from Uncle and stuffed cotton on his nostrils and ears, but forgot to tie up his mouth to the head with a bandage. In the ongoing commotion, we too did not notice that. To our good luck, rigor mortis had not yet set in. After lifting Uncle from the bed, I put his right arm around my shoulders and Uncle Arul did the same on the left. Now the dead uncle was standing, in fact, lifted in between both of us, hanging on to us to word it right. The weight was too much. Only then, I remembered the saying that dead people weigh too much. Now, the taxi driver took care of the navigation. He started putting Uncle's right foot at the front and then the left. Slowly, very slowly, taking every step forward towards the taxi. Thus, this convoy, with the dead man in the middle, was marching on a cold winter's night. Oh, what a march it was! No eyes would have beheld such a spectacular sight in its lifetime. Anyone would ask why we took this dead man the way we did when we could have lifted Uncle and put him in the taxi. Well, I am unable to recollect. But the two aunts and the old sister were of no help. The two of them were incessantly weeping, while the other was beaming. Maybe he was too heavy, even for the three of us, to lift, and the body was sagging down too much that it would almost be like dragging the body to the taxi, which will be painful for everyone psychologically. Even in death, a human person must be handled in a dignified manner. Also, it seemed less of strain this way. Finally, we reached the taxi and seated Uncle into the middle of the back seat. An Ambassador is an Indian-made, spacious car, with bench seats, both at the front and the back. The most comfortable one, with very good shock absorbers, anytime, much better than the cars of these days. These cars were driver-driven once and the power steering technology was not available those days, making it a bit difficult for the drivers. Otherwise, comfort and safety, nothing to beat these old Ambassadors. Almost all politicians those days used these cars, some of them using it even now, to travel in. Uncle Arul and myself faithfully stuck to our sides inside the car, with dead Uncle holding on to our shoulders or we holding him by his arms. Only then, we realized his mouth was agape. What a sight it was. Anyways, no use now, we would correct this later. The aunts made themselves comfortable next to the driver and we were off, homewards, in the winding roads of OT. Well now, let me give a brief intro about the dead uncle's home. One has to walk down a flight of stone stairs to reach the main entrance of the house. It was a mansion, built with bricks and covered on the roof, with painted metal sheets and small, cone-shaped country tiles. The rooms were huge, with wooden flooring, covered with carpet and filled with gleaming rosewood furniture. Each room had its own fireplace, except for the kitchen, which had a long firewood cooking range, with a separate chimney. Each room had huge French windows, with glass. A royal makeover, it was. After reaching our destination, again the same exercise started, this time being more difficult, as he had to be brought down the flight of stone stairs. Once again the strenuous march towards home started. The whole place was dark and the light came from the small torch the taxi driver had. A thick fog was all around, making it more difficult. After much difficulty and care, we walked him down the stairs, one step at a time, into the house and laid him on his bed. We were all worn out by then. The taxi driver took leave of us after taking his payment. He was a God-sent person, though after initial hitches, was of a great help to us. And money cannot buy such dedicated services, it has to come from the heart. The taxi driver was a good person, unlike the old sister at the hospital. Hospitals must take much care to employ people when it comes to patients' caregiving. Poor ones, they come to the hospital in pain and distress, only to be handled in such a way. Uncle Arul was putting the pillows in order to place dead uncle's head in a lifted up position to contain the fluids oozing out from the sides of his mouth. Suddenly, from out of one pillow comes out a half-finished bottle of whiskey. Only then did we come to know that our ailing uncle, just before collapsing at home, had taken a good quantity of his favorite drink and was listening to the transistor news, having a good time till his last. Good man he was. He lived every moment of his life. This episode drew mixed emotions. Let us pause for the day and meet up again in the next episode. Good day. Till then, my friends.